On this video, I am working in Job chapter 40, verses 15 to 24, and we're working on the text of doing inductive Hebrew grammar, parsing the verbs, looking at the meaning of each phrase in the Hebrew text. I've been doing this in Job, and now we're at this point. I begin, Hinena vehemot asher asiti imak, hatzir kabachar bakar yochel. Behold, now the behemot which I have made, or which I made literally with you. Notice here, we're going to talk in Job now about the behemoth. And most commentators understand this to be the hippopotamus and its strength. And God is asking Job, can you understand this? Can you put all this together? Notice here, as we look at the grammar, behemoth, by the way, is in the plural. And I think the reason is it's looking at the plural, showing the immensity of the hippopotamus. So it's put in the plural. Instead of behemah, it's behemoth, feminine plural. Asher asiti, notice asiti is the cow perfect first common singular from asa, which I have made with you. Hatzir kabakar yochel, that is, grass as an ox he eats. And we're looking here at the verb yochel, which is your cow imperfect, third masculine singular from achal. This pay aleph verb will show that o vowel throughout, and all of its usages will literally show that. So let me pick up now and talk a little bit about the commentary. I tried to do the grammar along with commentary as well. So the description of the behemoth agrees in many ways, as we've said, with that of the hippopotamus. The word in Hebrew comes from the word meaning cattle or beast, and its plural looks, as we've said, at the immensity of its size. It was created along with Job, and notice its diet is a diet of grass, of herbs, I should say. And so this is what the verse is saying. And then we go on to the next verse, verse 16. Notice it reads, Hine na hocho v'motnav, that is, behold, now his strength is in his loins. V'ono bishrire vitno, and his force is in the sinews of his body. Notice here, sherire looks, I believe, at the sinews or the muscles. So his strength is in the muscles or the sinews of his body. So he's looking at, again, the strength of the hippopotamus. The strength of the behemoth or the hippopotamus is in the muscles of his body. This is what this verse is saying. Then as we go to the next verse, verse 17. Yakpots zenavo chemo ares. That is, he bends his tail as a cedar. Notice here, Yakpots is from hapats, meaning to bend. And so he bends his tail like a cedar, looking at the flexibility and yet the strength of the tail of the hippopotamus. Gidei fachadav yeso ragu. That is, notice his gidei. Gidei looks at his sinews. So his sinews, pachadu, his sinews of his thigh, yeshoragu, are knit together, or we could say are intertwined. Shadag here, in its form, is a pual, imperfect third masculine or third, yes, masculine plural from sarag, meaning to intertwine or to be intertwined. So his sinews of his thigh, pachadav from pachad, of his thighs are intertwined. We think about again, he's strong. He has a stout tail that bends like the stem of a cedar tree, and his strong, his limbs, let's say his thighs, are knit together, again showing his massive power and massive strength. And so then we move to the next verse, verse 18. Atzamav afike nechusha. His bones are channels of brass, using the poetic imagery here of the bones are like channels of brass. Here we have a noun plural in construct with nechusha. And the word here could be translated like channel. So from afik, meaning channel. So his channels of brass, that is his bones are as channels of brass. Geramav kimtil barzel. And then his bones. In the next word here, we're looking again at the strength of his bones. So his bones are like bars of iron. Sort of the word he uses here would be like metal rod, metal rod. So his, can we say his bones are like metal rods of iron. Again, looking at his power. Notice again we have two nouns in construct, matil and barzel. That is, like metal rods of iron are his bones. Notice again the strength here. His strong bones, Job is saying, are like iron pipes, and his limbs are as iron bars, showing again the mighty strength of this hippopotamus. So then we go on to verse 19. Hu reshit darchei el. He is the beginning of the ways of God. Ha oso yagesh harbo. That is, the one who made him, his sword, will approach him. In other words, his sword to approach unto him is going to be the one who made him, which is referring to God himself, and he's the only one that can approach him. I think this is the idea. Yagesh is from nagash, to come near. It's a peinun verb, and it is a, notice here, a cow or hifil, imperfect third masculine singular from nagash. We have an A-E thematic vowel pattern looking at the hifil stem. So his the one who made him, his sword, may be caused to come near him. And then we go to verse 20. Kibul harim yisulo. That is, surely or indeed. Bul means food or produce. So the food or produce of the, notice, mountains, harim, bring him food. Or we could say, for food, the mountains bring it to him, or bring food to him. Notice we have here Yesu, the cow imperfect, from Nasa, third, or the cow imperfect, a third common plural. So the mountains bring food to him. V'chol hayat hasadeh yesachaku sham. And all the wild beasts of the field play there. Notice here, chayat hasadeh, again, two nouns in construct, chaya, changing to chayat in this singular construct word here, noun. So all the beasts of the field play there. And I think he's using the singular in a collective way. And then yesachaku is from sachak. It's a PL imperfect, a third masculine plural from sachak. So all the beasts of the field play there. And as we look at verse 20 then, the rising ground, we could say, well, let's go back to verse 19. He is the beginning, or the largest, I think is the idea, and strongest of God's creation. God alone, as we said, who made him, can approach him with his sword in combat. And then in verse 20, the rising ground near the water where he feeds, and the wild beasts of the field are not afraid to play near him, for he is harmless while grazing. In other words, he is not going to attack them because he eats the herb or the herbs around him. Then we move to verses 21 to 22, and we continue to look at the picture of the hippopotamus. Notice verse 21. Tachat ze'alim yiskab. Under, literally, the lotus trees. Ze'alim means lotus tree, a kind of lotus. So under the lotus trees, yishkab, he lies down. Cow imperfect, third masculine singular from shachab, to lie down. Beseter kaneh uvitsa. That is, as in the secret place or the covert of the reed and swamp, vitsa. So he lies down in the amidst the reeds and in a swampy area, I think is the thought there. It is interesting that the hippopotamus will lie under the covert then of the lotus trees and willows, is what the text is saying. And then we move to verse 23, and notice it reads, Hain Ya'ashok Nahar Lo Yakpos. That is, behold, the river, or we could say a river, if it, and maybe we could put the hain here, if a river overflows, he will not be alarmed. Notice here, Ya Asok is from Ashak, or Ashok, I should say, is from Ashak, meaning to overflow. So if a river overflows, it could look at something rushing in a violent way. If a river overflows, then notice he will not tremble or will not be alarmed. Yiftach ki yagiha yardain el pihu. That is, he is confident, even though the Jordan rushes forth unto his mouth. We're using poetic imagery here, or seeing poetic imagery. And notice Yagihu is from Giha, to burst forth. So he is confident. Yivtach is a cow imperfect third masculine singular from Batach. He is confident, though a Jordan. This does not have the definite article, although it could refer to the Jordan, I suppose, or something like the Jordan, if even though it rush unto his mouth, he will not be alarmed. Here we have Yagihu is from Giha. It is a Hifil imperfect third masculine singular from Giha. So whatever happens, he's not going to be alarmed, even if the river, like the Jordan, would come against him. Able to live comfortably in water and on land. He is unafraid of a swelling river, Job is saying. Though a Jordan, which could represent a swift flooding river, run unto him, he is not disturbed. He's not alarmed. And that's the picture that Job is picturing here, or the writer of Job. Again, showing the greatness of God and asking Job to try to understand all of that in terms of his own personal statements and so forth previously. Then we move on to verse 24. Be'enav yekachenu. That is, shall he take him with his eyes? Notice here, yekachenu is from lakach, to take. So we have here a cow imperfect third masculine singular from lakach, followed by the pronominal suffix third masculine singular in the new here. Notice hen who probably became hen nu, where the who, the personal pronoun, by reverse assimilation, assimilated into the noon, and the hen is probably a hinge, taking us to that final who historically. And then it goes on, b'mokashim yin kav av. That is, or through his nose with a snare, literally with snares, uh, will he pierce his nose. In other words, can one pierce his nose with snares and capture him? The thought is not really. Notice here, Yinkab is from Nakab, to pierce. It's the cow imperfect, third masculine singular from Nakab. So as we're looking at verse 24, the behemoth can only be trapped with great care. No one can walk up to him and place a ring or rope in his nose to lead him away. So he's trying to show again the strength of the behemoth, and God is the one who created it. From this point on, we're going to move on in the book of Job to look at the crocodile, probably, Leviathan. And so we move from the hippopotamus to the crocodile, and it will now be described. And Leviathan literally means the twisted animal, probably looking at the crocodile. And we're going to stop here, but God or Job will ask, and God will sarcastically ask Job if he can go fishing for the crocodile, like a regular fish that he's fishing for. So I'm going to stop at this point, just slowly working through phrase by phrase and looking at the grammar and vocabulary inductively. So thank you. I hope this helps somebody.